Carolyn B. Cross. I'm the Vice President for Development and Alumni Relations. I'm also a graduate of Albertus and a part of a long Albertus family. It's kind of ironic. My grandmother was a member of the class of 1929, so on opening day, she walked through those doors of this college. So, go Graham. On behalf of all of us at Albertus, we welcome you to our Founders Day, first Founders Day celebration, and welcome you to our founding building, Rosary Hall. Many of you may have walked in here and said, wow, this place looks different. This is our new Learning Commons, and I'm sure that there'll be more about that later. We welcome you to take a walk around and take a look at some of the new and exciting things that are available to our students of all ages here in this building. It's an honor today, truly an honor, to introduce to you a woman whose vision and leadership has safely guided Albertus during her tenure to the strong and vibrant campus that you saw today. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce our president, Dr. Julia Magnus.
Well, good afternoon again, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to point out that the wallpaper in this room was not only here in 1925, but the wallpaper was the original wallpaper that was in this house 107 years ago. It's made of silk and it wears like silk out there for the winter. So I thought I'd mention that. One of the great things about a place like Albertus is the things that can happen if enough people make up their minds to see to it that a very small college with a very big approach, we who are here all kind of think that way, that we can get things done, but sometimes things take a very long time. And I'm going to give you one example, since we're all here at Rosary Hall, which truly has been transformed into an information center, an information commons for all of our students. Our directed writing program occurs upstairs. Academic advising for the freshmen and women occurs upstairs here. There is every reason for these students to want to come to Rosary Hall to use this wonderful facility. And yes, the stacks still exist downstairs, but they have been transformed as well. There is one other addition that I will mention before we begin our actual program here, and that is for 21 years, we had all been hoping that there would be an elevator in this building, and I am very pleased to tell you that there is an elevator in this building, and the alumni, and I say alumni because it's mostly alumni, the women who dealt with this building when there was no elevator, just a shaft, that was a book shaft for many years. If you go around the corner and just investigate a little bit, which we hope you'll do throughout the building today after the program is finished, the elevator is in place. It's not usable today, but it will be when the state of Connecticut says okay. And that will probably be this next week. So I thank everybody who made the contributions that were necessary to make that happen here at Albertus. Ladies and gentlemen, we are privileged this afternoon to welcome the prioress of the Dominican Sisters of Peace, formerly known as the Dominican Sisters of St. Mary of the Springs, who sponsored this college since its very beginning back in 1925. And as many of you know, the first classes were held here in this building on September 24th, 1925. Sister Margaret Ormond is a very unique, internationally based, sometimes Columbus, Ohio-based woman of tradition and woman of contemporary religious life who has given so much over so many years to see to it that the Dominican Sisters, and she is one of the linchpin people who founded Dominican Sisters International back in the 1990s, along with the then Master General of the Dominican Order, Timothy Radcliffe, to see to it that the Dominican Sisters would have a kind of an umbrella for themselves throughout the world. As we all know, there are many different congregations of Dominican Sisters, and Sister Margaret Ormond not only had served as the Prioress General of the Dominican Sisters of St. Mary of the Springs, but she also now is the Prioress of the Dominican Sisters of Peace, the new congregation that was founded 3 years ago when 7 Dominican congregations came together. There is a sense about Sister Margaret's work across the span of so many years of great ministry, not only here in America, but in Rome, where she was based for some time, and throughout many of the countries in Africa. She has been very visible in South America as well, because the Dominican Sisters of Peace do have missions there and elsewhere throughout the world. It is a very wonderful thing for Albertus Magnus College that we have the opportunity to hear often from Sister Margaret because of her many travels and because of the work that she has done. Her work in education goes way back to when she was a younger Dominican sister, but she moved from being a Dominican sister who was focused on ministry here in this country to a much broader base. And that has been very, very helpful for us as we have considered our mission here at Albertus Magnus College. So it is a pleasure to introduce to you this afternoon, sorry about that, it is a pleasure to introduce to you this afternoon the prioress of the Dominican Sisters of Peace, who will address us, and actually for the first time in a group like this since she has become prior. So Margaret, we welcome you back to
Thank you. Thank you, Julia. I'll just put this up here to tantalize you. Greetings to all of you on this historic occasion, the first institutional celebration of your foundation in 1925. I bring you, as I said earlier, heartfelt congratulations from all of the Dominican Sisters of Peace, the proud sponsors of Albertus Magnus, as well as from our Dominican associates. Earlier, I quoted what was said of that first class, Carolyn Behan's grandmother. They spoke of their spirit, forward-looking thoughts, and the courage of pioneers. I said it once, but I have to say it again because it's really the theme of my talk. And as I greeted the students this morning, I really want to greet, with the Dominican Sisters of Peace, the faculty, the staff, the members of the Board of Trustees, the alumni, the alumni, the friends, the benefactors, and the Dominican Sisters and Associates of Peace. All of you are part of the history that we celebrate today. This past summer, I spoke to the Dominican Sisters of Peace at the beginning of an assembly, and I said to them that as we begin, we're only 3 years old, as we begin, I think we need 3 qualities to go into the future. Now, I won't embarrass them and say what were they. I see the Dominican Sisters of Peace putting their head down. But I said, if we're to have a future as this newly reconfigured congregation, we need courage, creativity, and contemplation. Those 3 words, I think, are what will give us a future, and I think it's what's given Albertus a past that will take us into the future. It is really that these 3 qualities, captured by the freshman class in 1925, spirit, contemplation, forward-looking ideas, creativity, and courage, that enables us to be nearly 90 and going strong. So let me talk about each one of these. I'm going to move this over so I don't want to lose Joe Crespo's eyes. Courage. We sometimes say that people are very brave and they think that it comes from strength. But it is really when we are weak, when we have to lean on God, that we show real courage. With New Haven, a thriving New England city, Yale University, and the nearby metropolitan New York City forming the horizons of our consciousness, let's consider for a moment what it must have been like nearly 90 years ago when the brave founders of this college first embarked on the mission of providing college education for Catholic women on these grounds. They had purchased Rosary in 1924, and the first day of classes in 25, there were 24 students and 14 faculty members, and everything was housed here. Recall that these years were just leading up to the Depression. Nevertheless, the foundresses of Albertus, they purchased McAuliffe Hall and Walsh Hall, and the enrollment increased to 70 students. And within years, they had purchased 9 additional mansions on Prospect Street. I wonder if the Board of Trustees said that was a good move. In spite of the constant financial fragility, they were literally on the brink of dissolution numerous times over these years. The college continued to grow. In the 60s, they began to add new buildings, more buildings, tapping into the newly available government grants as well as generous donors. And we know what they are. Dominican Hall, 1961, Aquinas, 65, the Campus Center, 70, 89, Aquinas, the Athletic Center, and Tagliatelle Academic in 2005. Wouldn't you agree that this physical expansion took a lot of courage? So much so that when the sister president was desperate for funds in the 30s and the sponsoring congregation was unable to provide them, she was reminded of the loving providence that brought them through previous trials and would continue to support them. And I think many of us could say this by heart. Mother Stephanie wrote, "Just put your entire trust in God and go on courageously with your great work. Plan everything that in the future as if you had $1 million endowment. In fact, you have something more secure, faith and trust in the providence of God." Our archives, housed here, contain hundreds of accounts of the courage that was demonstrated by the early faculty members, laity, and staff. One of the accounts describes the woman who pioneered the AMC biology department. And from the archival record we learn, the biology department as AMC was developed in 1927 out of the former stable on what had been the Tyler property. The first member of that department, Mrs. Beauvery, known by her students as Madame Beauvery, supervised the renovation that converted the stable into classrooms and laboratories. A respected scholar, the first woman to graduate from MIT, and recently returned from Germany, she provided her own books and improvised all the equipment that the college could not afford to purchase. Coffee cans from the kitchen were used as test tube holders. A brilliant teacher, she pioneered a method of research known as the Beauvery method. More recently, we saw the courage when the curriculum here at AMC changed. New majors were needed to make students, quote, forward-looking and contemporary, responsive to the needs of our times. So, we have today master's graduate programs in liberal studies, in management, business administration, art therapy, leadership, teaching, creative writing, and human services. And AMC initiated diverse methods of securing undergraduate and graduate degrees. With our traditional day program, accelerated evening program, and the cohort-based program. All of these changes took courage to usher in a new way to do college learning. As the French Dominican Lacordaire said, study includes the grace to understand the age. So, friends of Albertus, how is courage needed during this age? How is courage needed, especially during our days of struggle? Are we willing to try to do some impossible things? Do we have the courage to believe that this Dominican family can be taken seriously in the struggle for truth in our world, in the struggle for peace, which we pray for on this International Day of Peace, and for justice? Can we inspire our students and our extended family, all of us here, to trust that we can make a difference in our world, on our planet? Can we improvise and tread lightly on our planet, Mother Earth? Is not courage one of the hallmarks of Albertus's legacy? Creativity. We sometimes think that creativity belongs solely to the arts, music, art, acting, design. Yet when we consider the history of Albertus Magnus College, we realize it relates to every human endeavor, especially education. In a market-driven economy, it takes more than courage to go forward. And it's good to remember and celebrate some of the more creative ventures that have contributed to the history here in Albertus. One of the most creative and honest, when I reflected on this about the history, it still flabbergasts me. One of the most creative ventures at Albertus from the very beginning was how the laity was welcomed at every level of this institution. And this was way before the Vatican II statement on the laity. Nicholas Mosley, the first provost, early board members and incorporators, John McKeon, James Moran, and Matthew Reynolds, early faculty members, Josephine Bree and Ruth Caroline Gillespie, to name only a few. This is amazing. In many institutions, laity didn't appear until Vatican II. At Albertus, they were part of the beginning incorporation. Indeed, the partnership between the sister faculty of AMC and their Yale colleagues was one of the major factors in establishing the academic excellence of the college from the years of its foundation. From the archival record we learn, Dr. Josephine Bree, Miss Bree, was one of the earliest teachers at Albertus, who taught classics here while studying for her doctorate at Yale. At the time of the financial crisis in the early 30s, she not only offered to teach without pay, but also to give some of her own savings to help the struggling administration. I read somewhere she had money set aside to go to Greece, and she was ready to give that to the administration during this time of struggle. And perhaps her most generous gift was that of enticing outstanding professors from Yale to help part-time in the classics department. Today, that tradition continues with the largely lay faculty representing so many highly esteemed institutions. And lay employees, too, contributed generously. I love the story about Mr. Patrick Weldon, who worked at Albertus for 45 years. He was there as a gardener, but he was not only interested in the gardening and the buildings, he also was very interested in the students. And it was said that he used to pick the flowers from the campus for their social events. He was on time when the flag had to go up in the morning, and there at night when it came down. So we have a legacy of committed lay staff that has laid a foundation for us to go 90 years and beyond. And as we had faculty and lay staff, so too we had the continuing presence of lay members on the board. After the restructuring of the corporation in the 60s, laity comprised 4/5 of the board, and the sponsoring congregation provided the remaining 1/5. And here to celebrate her 30th year in office, the longest term of any president, one of 2 lay presidents, Dr. Julia McNamara. And I want to pause here and recognize, this is why I haven't. I want to recognize you, Julia, especially for the ways you have embraced and enfleshed the Dominican charism, laudare, benedicere, predicare, to praise, to bless, and to preach. And so, Julia, I'd like you to open this so we can all see what it is.
Normally I just tear.
What does it say?
It is a star, and it is a star with the Dominican shield on it. And it says Laudare, Benedicere, Predicare, and has the 8-pointed star of St. Dominic at its height. Thank you so much.
Some other creative ventures were expanding the curriculum that were needed to address the changing needs of students. In 1943 to 45, the accelerated degree program during the war years. Is that amazing? The accelerated continuing education degree program in 1985. The New Dimensions program in 94, and the off-campus classes in 95. I also want to single out your mission statement as highly creative. Why? Because it speaks of practicality. And I quote, "The mission of Albertus Magnus College is to provide men and women with an education that promotes the search for truth in all its dimensions and is practical in its application." Don't you think that's creative? It was when it happened, and it continues to be. Today, perhaps our greatest opportunity to practice creativity comes from all the new technologies that now supplement our long-cherished blackboards, library books, and live lectures. Yet, even as we adopt these new methods, we must challenge ourselves with this question. Are we using the technology both effectively and ethically to discover and preach the truth in all its dimensions? We know that young people, like our class of 2016, have a leg up on this whole new medium of communication. We need teachers and preachers who can relate to the signs of the times and make critical and creative connections. We need to find ways to speak the truth about Jesus Christ to our world. We need to honor the richness that diversity provides here at Albertus and follow Jesus' inclusive way of welcoming those from diverse cultures and religions. I heard a student say, when I was here for graduation a year ago, you know, diverse students around here are comfortable. How can we tap into our creativity so that we can play an active part in Albertus' legacy by promoting truth in all its dimensions? Creativity is also part of our legacy as friends of Albertus. And lastly, contemplation. We sometimes think that contemplation is only for mystics and monks. But this is not always the case. We have seen among each new generation of students a desire for depth, for meaning in their lives. Today there is a cultural trend drawing many to practice meditation, centering prayer, and other forms of mindful presence. You certainly, here at Albertus, especially the students, give witness to this in the many reflection papers you need to prepare for your classes. Look around and see how often on this campus the Dominican motto, another one than the one Julie just received, it is in evidence at Albertus. Contemplata e contemplare ali each tradere. And what does it say? To contemplate and to give to others the fruits of our contemplation. So all Dominicans, priests, sisters, laity, young people, nuns, are called to contemplation. And what is it that we contemplate? Back to our mission statement. Steeped in our Catholic faith and our Judeo-Christian heritage, our love for the Word of God, we find in the promises of Jesus the direction for all of history. Ours here at Albertus, that of our entire world and cosmos. Our motto is truth, and it is Jesus who says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Another way that contemplation is evident here in your curriculum is your development of ethics across the curriculum, as are your celebrations of the Eucharist as a campus community, and your lectures on Dominican saints, St. Albert the Great, your patron, and St. Catherine of Siena. I cannot help but think that those who have led and served this college these past 90 years, present company included, have been contemplatives, steeped in daily prayer. How else could they have been so courageous and so creative? Whatever the varied ways we contemplate, we are all called to commune with God. God wants to hear our prayer, wants to hear our concerns, our joys, and our loves. Our God wants to ground our being, companion us on our journey, disturb our independence, and attend our losses. Contemplation enables us to be, as Sister Pat Farrell recently said at the LCWR, we're called to be humble, but not submissive, rooted in a strong sense of ourselves, but not self-righteous, truthful, but gentle, and absolutely fearless. As we celebrate Albertus, I want to raise up the Dominican sisters who were in New Haven even before Albertus, when the academy opened in 1901, and the grammar school that was part of it. Today, we continue to meet the needs of God's people here in Connecticut by sharing our gift for education and care for the marginalized here at Albertus, as well as in our learning centers in Fairhaven and New Britain, and in the many ministries that the Dominican Sisters and Associates are connected to. So, as we in the 21st century come together to celebrate this rich tradition of faith and values, we acknowledge the gift that Albertus Magnus College has been to New Haven, to the church, and the world over all these years. I think we really could. We ourselves marked by this legacy? Are we women and men of contemplation and faith? Do we allow God to inhabit our minds and our hearts so that we can give God's dream for Albertus, the world and earth, our earth, a chance? I opened with that statement expressed by students here at Albertus in 25. They spoke of the spirit, the forward-looking thoughts, and the courage as pioneers. Can't you hear in their prophetic words the values that I've held before you: courage, creativity, contemplation. As our records attest, and as I've tried to show, the women and men whose lives have informed this institution have exhibited these 3 C's. But here's the good news for the future. Each of us has been gifted with the potential to mark our own sphere of influence with these same gifts. Let us be inspired by our treasured past so that we, friends of Albertus, may become the courageous, creative, and contemplative persons God needs for the future of Albertus and for the future of our world. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that inspiring, wonderful talk. We will long think about courage, creativity, and contemplation. Thank you so much. Margaret is featured in this wonderful little book called The Dominican Way. And she has participated in an interview process, and the vignette that turned out of through this wonderful process in this book that contains information about approximately 20 members of the Dominican Order. Margaret's right in the center of pages 77 to 81. And one of the things about this is that she says that the interviewer says to her, I guess the core business of the Dominican Order is preaching. And I think, ladies and gentlemen, and Margaret, of course, had to agree with that. But Margaret, of course, gave us a tremendous demonstration of that this afternoon, and for that, we thank you and wish you all the best as you continue your very important work for your Congregation of Peace and for so many other Dominican sisters internationally. Thank you, Margaret. And ladies and gentlemen, at this time, it is a privilege and a pleasure to introduce the Dominican woman who made all of these events today as part of a sparkle that she has brought to Albertus Magnus College. She has made possible this whole concept of Founders Day that we certainly know now will be an annual event here at Albertus Magnus College. Sister Anne Kilbride is the former prioress of the Dominican Sisters of Peace, and she has been a really remarkable asset to this place, helping us all to come to new ways of looking at and thinking about our relationship to the Dominicans and to our Catholic identity here at Albertus. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to introduce now Sister Anne Kilbride.
It is said that you cannot understand your present or plan your future if you do not know where you came from. Today we honor the founders and presidents of Albertus Magnus College, who have established our heritage, grounded our present, and offer us insights for our future. Mother Stephanie Moen, the founders of the college, along with the Dominican sisters who served on her council, was inspired by the needs expressed by parents seeking an academic education for their daughters in the Catholic and Dominican tradition. These founding sisters, in collaboration with others in the New Haven community, had a vision and planted the seeds that became Albertus Magnus College in 1925. Since that time, the college has been blessed with 12 presidents who have continued this founding legacy of the college and provided leadership that allowed the college to respond to the changing educational needs of the times in which they served. In a special way today, we celebrate the leadership of President Julia McNamara, who this year commemorates 30 years of service to the college. From the beginnings of the Dominican Order, institutions and ministries founded by Dominicans have striven to be holistic by attending to intellectual, spiritual, moral, and community needs. To do this, as Sister Patricia Walters pointed out in her presentation to the participants at the Dominican Colloquium this summer, a Dominican education must look to the tradition and at the same time to the signs of the times in order to provide a holistic education that enables students to be contributing members to the society that they become a part of. Today, as we honor the foundress and the presidents of Albertus, we celebrate their efforts from 1925 to the present time to provide this holistic education grounded in tradition and the signs of the times for all of the students who have been part of this Albertus community. As we honor the works and bless with holy water the pictures of these leaders, we will hear a quote either from or about each one. As we bless and listen, may we be inspired by the vision and dedication of each individual. Please note, the sisters were not inclined to leave much of a written legacy behind them. The call of their religious life encouraged them to be itinerant and to let go of their legacy as they moved from ministry to ministry. And so we pray. God, you have given us a rich tradition and living heritage through the works of those who founded and served as presidents of Albertus Magnus College. May we celebrate their legacy today as we strive to provide a holistic education for today's students emanating from our Dominican tradition and our response to the signs of the times in which we live. Instill within all of us a desire to continue this legacy into our present and future for the betterment of those you place before us. We begin our dedication and blessing now with Mother Stephanie Moen, foundress of Albertus Magnus College.
Mother Stephanie Moen, foundress of Albertus Magnus College in 1925. She said, "Just put your entire trust in God, my dear child, and go on courageously with your good work. Plan everything for the future as if you had $1 million endowment. In fact, you have something more secure, faith and trust in the providence of God." Sister Doralita Carton, President, 1925-1929. It was said about her, she set high standards for the institution, which have become a lasting tradition of the college. Sister Isabel Oger, President, 1929 to 1935, 1938, 1941. It was said about her, Sister Isabel's keen, logical mind gave her a wider knowledge of her subject, be it science, history, language, religion, nature study, or any one of many other subjects. Sister was many-sided. All that her mind encountered proved interesting to her and was made fascinating to her students. Sister Anacletus Oger, President, 1935 to 1938. She said, "We feel transported back to the days of Dominic and Francis and the ideals they set before their religious: fraternal affection, mutual interests, interchange of thought, and love of true learning, which leads to God."
Sister Uriel Condon, President, 1941-1944. It was said about her, "She is a fine religious and has an indomitable courage and a resilience of spirit, both of which few people possess to the degree which she does." Sister Mary Samuel Boyle, President, 1944 to 1947. She said, "Albertus Magnus must progress. She must take the high place apparently destined for her among the colleges of the country. At present, there seem to be mountains in the way, financial mountains in particular. With our united help, they can be overcome. We must not let opportunities slip away." Sister Ermina Longstreth, President, 1947 to 1949. It was said about her, "She was a skilled and dedicated teacher with whom students regarded with respect and affection. Patient and thorough, insistent on careful, honest work, but ever ready to give help and encouragement. She set high standards for herself and others, and through her example, quietly encouraged all to live up to them. And she was fun to be around, jolly, good-humored, and considerate, no matter what difficulties or pains beset her." Sister Coralita Cullinan, President, 1949-1953. It was said about her, while President of Albertus Magnus College, Sister Mary Coralita inaugurated the present scholarship program and pursued a policy in the school's expansion in the school's physical class and liberal arts courses. She taught a class in education psychology during her first year as president in order that she may become better acquainted with the students with whom she was very popular.
Sister Lucia Deku, President, 1953 to 1956. She said, "Without minimizing the needs and work of the endowed universities, the smaller unendowed institutions help to keep unfettered the spirit of man in his natural right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." Sister Marie Louise Hubert, President, 1956 to 1971. She said, "I believe very strongly that a Catholic college has an important role to play in today's society. If ever there was a time to ponder the ultimate questions within the context of a liberal arts education, it is today. We have a responsibility to our students to give them the opportunity to question, to probe with an open mind." Dr. Francis Horn, he said, "Face the future convinced that you are an individual can make your life count for something. Make your community, your country, the world at large, a better place for your having lived in it. Sister Frances DeSales Heffernan, President, 1974 to 1982. She said, "Today our students must learn to face a fast and ever-changing set of circumstances that affect their own lives and the lives of all people all over our constantly shrinking world. They must think not just for their own welfare, but for the well-being of our planet."
Dr. Julia McNamara, President, 1982 to the present.
Albertus Magnus College remains ever faithful to its academic mission, which springs directly from the commitment, vision, and dedication of both our extraordinary, courageous founders and of their successors, who have been over 87 years and are today our trustees, our faculty, and our administrators. These remarkable persons have made the deliberate and continuous effort to ensure over changing and often tumultuous times, and in the company of many generations of students, that the search for truth in all of its dimensions and in the spirit and style of the Dominicans would, with God's gracious assistance, thrive at Albertus, and that the equally serious commitment to offer students an education which is practical in its application would also be a reality for each of our graduates ad multos annos.
As we close our dedication with the blessing of the picture of President McNamara, we especially celebrate her 30 years of service as leader of this college. As president, Dr. McNamara has used her creative gifts to keep alive the heritage of the college while meeting the educational needs of students today. We close this dedication event by singing with the chorus the Dominican Blessing, as we give thanks to God for our founders, presidents, and all who have promoted and continue to promote the mission, Dominican tradition, and Catholic heritage of the college. As Meister Eckhart, a Dominican mystic, reminds us, if the only prayer you ever say is thanks, that will be enough. Let us join in song. The words are on the back of your program.
May God, Redeemer, heal us.
honor to join Dr. Mara here for the presentation of the Veritas Award.
Ladies and gentlemen, from time to time, and it is rare indeed, the trustees of Albertus Magnus College decide to present the Veritas Award, the very, very focused award that celebrates the Dominican tradition of the college, and upon an organization or upon an individual who really reflects exactly what this place is all about from the perceptions of its mission, from the point of view of its mission and purposes. Today, the trustees of the college want you all to know that they have voted unanimously to confer the Veritas Award upon the Dominican Sisters of Peace. And we ask that Sister Margaret Ormond come forward to accept the award and that all the Dominican sisters here present rise. Sister Margaret.
On behalf of the Dominican Sisters of Peace here and those who would like to be here, I accept this award in their name, and I accept it with humility and pride for all that has been here at Albertus. It is truly, truly a blessed and holy place, one that we want to continue on multos años. And so, as an expression of our commitment to honor Julia McNamara's term of 30 years as president of this fine institution, and to honor one of the peoples that she favors so much here, the students, we make this presentation for you for the Scholarship for Needy Students in your name.
That Mother Stephanie did say when she wrote to Professor Mosley, whom Margaret mentioned. And Nick Mosley was one of the leaders down at Yale University. And she wrote to him and said, "My dear Professor Mosley, I know that you need money, but I cannot give it to you." So the answer is no. Sister Margaret, thank you so much for this wonderful gift for the students who are in so much need here at Albertus Magnus College. We are very grateful to the Dominican Sisters of Peace for sharing this gift. Thank you so much.
I'm glad I drove from Columbus because I couldn't pick that up the plane.
As I've heard our chairman say before, I'm the last thing standing between you and a refreshment. But I would be remiss if I didn't say a few words of thanks this afternoon. There's been a lot of discussion today and a lot of reflection. Dad, don't cry, because you're going to make me cry. About community. And at Albertus, I think all of you here can feel it today. This is indeed an incredible community. So, on behalf of all of us, I'd like to thank our physical facilities team, our food service team, the student organizations, the SGA, the Res Life staff, the State Alumni Association, our photographers and the DJ and all the other vendors that were here, Sister Ann and all that she did to make this wonderful event happen today, and Art Bellucci and the choir for providing us with this lovely music. And I'm sure I forgot some people, but you'll forgive me. As we leave today, I want to encourage all of you to visit the Heritage Room in the back of Rosary Hall. It's the former board suite here in this building. The team at the library, archives, Sister Ann and a few others have put together a wonderful collection of some visual history of Albertus, so I encourage you to do that. Tim from the library staff put together a lovely and incredible slideshow of Albertus then and now. Please take some time to go back and take a look. We have refreshments that will be served both outside and inside, but I have one last surprise for our president. Don't worry. As we leave here, our facilities team is going to help clear some chairs in the foyer. I would ask that you all go and grab a glass. We are going to be pouring some champagne, sparkling wine, lemonade, and we are going to have a brief toast, which will be given by the secretary of our Board of Trustees, Mr. Joseph Germain, who is probably better known as the husband of Albertus alumna Lily and Adley Germain. But he is going to give us one last toast to President McNamara for anniversary. So please take your time, go on out, grab a glass of whatever you like, and we will rejoin in the foyer.